Hello, hello, hello. We're back with a brand new series of new fast frameworks to deliver phenomenal results. These are actual client wins, or just an example of how we customize frameworks for our clients. It is not one size fits all. As soon as you join our program, you get access to our process and our philosophy and our modules, but you also get access to customized frameworks for your exact life. And that's what you're going to see in these examples. So today is how to salvage a ruined trip, a four-step framework. So here's our scenario. A physician mom is retiring from medicine to travel the world with her family because why? Because we do amazing things at Next Level Freedom. So you might be thinking, oh my gosh, it sounds entirely impossible. It is not. This is what this physician mom had been working towards, and we created it. We helped her create it inside the program. So she's getting ready to travel the world on her way, and then the house didn't sell. And a family member got an unexpected diagnosis that needed care for. And the trip started falling apart. It was not going as planned. So I'm going to show you how we salvaged it. And also, this is a great example to beware of your mind saying, it'll be better when I'm retired. This physician mom, just like me before I retired, you have those really brutal, hectic days. The boss is crabby. The bonus is not going to happen. All kinds of people are being moody, got a bad, someone yelled at you, had a bad commute, all of it, right? And on those days, you can be like, oh my God, I cannot wait to retire when all my problems go away. So what a good example. That's not what happens. The reality is when we retire, we still are a human. And life is still 50-50. This is a concept we've shared here. Life is 50-50 is a general, like universal law that it's never 100% amazing all the time for anyone, no matter how good you are, no matter how well you take care of the planet, life is going to be 50-50. I would say in our program, it's really more like 80-20. It's like 80% amazing, 20% what is happening, right? 20% is that human element that we are always like trying to prevent it from happening, but it's going to go and with you on retirement. It's going to be with you in the hospital. It is with us everywhere. So why I say this is because if you're in the hospital, like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to retire and travel around the world. First of all, that's not true. Join my program and we can help you if that's your desire. But when we kind of see, oh, even retirement traveling around the world has its own set of headaches and stressors. In some way, it's worse. Some ways, it's better. I guess I can find peace here in the hospital. And that's really part of the biggest lesson for this particular client, and a really great lesson for us is that our work is to find how we can make where we are enough. May not be our favorite all the time, but how can we find this place to be nourishing and exactly what we need? How can we help ourselves in this moment? Because if we can find enjoyment here in this day, then guess what? You get to enjoy today. And that is amazing. And also, the more you get in the habit of enjoying and being at peace and feeling enough and feeling like this is a good job, this is a good marriage, this is a good family, the more you get to enjoy that, the more all of it gets better. Well, what we tell ourselves is, oh my God, I hate all of this. And we feel very anxious and very scared. And that just creates worse things in our life. That energy is like a magnet to disasters. And so instead, what I offer you, what I offered her is how can we find enjoyment wherever we are, even when we're dealing with our trip falling apart? How can we find peace in this place? And part of it will be coming from, I'm a human and I just forgot for a second, life is 50-50. Of course, there's going to be things happening here. Of course, just like if I was in the hospital, there will be things happening there. Where do you want to be dealing with things? She's like, oh, for sure on this family trip or around the world. I want to deal with this kind of problem. This problem is so much better, right? You can feel the energetic shift with that. These are the problems I want. These problems are so much better than dealing with that difficult boss and that moody business manager. I love these problems, right? Totally. This happened to me too. Well, I could spot this because this is exactly what happened to me when I was getting ready to retire. I had given them I think like, I don't know, 4 months notice, something like that. And so, I wanted to make sure that there was actually, I don't think a requirement for, I could just tell them and be done. But that's not how I wanted to handle it. I wanted to give everyone a notice. They were approaching the next schedule. I didn't want to be on the schedule if I knew I wasn't going to be there. So I completed the current schedules. I didn't want any work to have to be burdened on my colleagues, and I wanted time to transition myself, and I wanted to have that income and wrap up my projects. I wanted time to do this gracefully. Nothing's an emergency. If you're enjoying where you are, there are no emergencies. There's no desperate rush to get to that day. Right? So that's part of why we do this particular work. It was so interesting. And I was a coach at the time. I was a very good coach at the time. Of course, I was being able to retire from medicine from coaching. And I remember, though, my very human brain was like, I cannot wait to retire. All of my problems will be solved, was sort of what I was thinking. And I woke up the next morning and my brain was like, oh my God, we have all these problems. And it was really like a panic moment. It was like, oh my gosh, now I'm going to worry about, I don't have that salary that comes in every week or every 2 weeks from the hospital. I have to go out and create that salary. Yes, I can control all of my schedule, but now I have to control all of my schedule. So it was so interesting. That first day, I was like, oh no, this panic is still here. And it was so calming to be like, of course it is. We are human life. Our brain likes to think everything's going to be better there. The work is always, how can I make it better now? So I can enjoy it now. So I can create from this energy. So that's the first piece. And now let's look at the framework. Here we go. Here's the coaching I offer to her. Step 1. Yes, this is hard. You're a human. There are hard parts of life and it's temporary. How can I make it easier? A lot of coaching from 2020, it still exists out there. There's these sayings of we can do hard things. And if that helps you, keep it. I hate that sentence. I hate when I hear my clients say this sentence because here's what our thoughts create our reality. So if we're thinking I can do hard things, I'll tell you 100,000 times you will make it harder on yourself because your brain is like, I have to be doing hard things. The only way I can do it is hard. I can do hard things. It sets you up for the expectation that it has to be hard. It doesn't, love. It doesn't. So here's what I offer you instead. How could I make it easier? Doesn't that feel so much better than I can do hard things? Who wants to do hard things all the time? No, I hate that. Try this. How could I make this easier? Doesn't that feel softer? And it points you to the direction you should go. When we tell ourselves I have to do hard things, I mean, you could just see that mom rolling up her sleeves, getting ready to do hard things. No, how can we make this easier? Is the question to ask. Step 1. Step 2, what's the one tiny next step? You want to solve one problem at a time. Why she was in distress is because her brain was like, how do I solve for this illness? How do I get this household? How do I get this trip on track? How do I deal with husband's mood? How do I deal with kids in college? Right? Her brain was shutting down, was getting overwhelmed because it was trying to solve for everything all at once. That is not how you solve problems. That's how you get yourself in a real big trauma response. Right? It's so stressful. So instead, step 2 is how do you do one tiny next step? What is the smallest next step? Solve one problem at a time, one tiny problem at a time. This is actually how you solve everything, by the way. As long as you're telling yourself you have to solve everything, you'll shut yourself down and solve nothing. You'll probably create more problems. If you're like, I'm just going to solve one tiny step at a time, that's how you move in the direction of getting this done. One tiny step will feel good. You'll show yourself a result now. And this is how you'll solve the big problems. Step 3, go in the direction that feels like relief. Of all the problems, which one would feel like relief if it could be solved? Of all the options for that problem, what option feels most like relief? That's the next right step. If your brain's like, how do I know what to do when there's all these problems? Go in the direction of relief. That's your body telling you this is the priority and this is the solution. Where this client was getting confused, where all of us can get confused, is we try to solve everything in our brain all at once. And your brain is the worst place to solve problems for. I promise you, you are brilliant. You have learned through med school to use your brain. You're very cerebral and you're brilliant. Absolutely, 100%. And if you're trying to solve a big problem, whatever it is, in this example, salvaging a trip, then you need to go into your body. You need to drop into your body. And most physicians don't know how to do this. So I have to invite you to join my coaching program where we'll teach you this. I'll walk you through it. Until then, your body always has the answers. Your intuition, your gut instincts, your right brain, whatever you want to call it, your inner knowing, it 100% has the answers and you 100% can trust them. And it was always the way. It will never fail you as long as you're connected to it. Now, here I'll have a sidebar. Some people will be like, I can't trust my intuition, always leads me wrong. In a coaching, I'll tell you it's not true. What happened is you had intuition and you didn't listen to it. And something terrible happened. It wasn't because you weren't listening to intuition, it's because you weren't listening to intuition. You're listening to your intuition. And if you slow that moment down, you will find the red flags where your intuition was like, girl, don't do it. And you did it anyway. I promise that has happened 100% of the time I've walked through someone. All I have to say is you can trust your intuition. You can trust your body, your inner knowing. And if you don't, it's okay if you don't, because the world does not teach us to trust ourselves. Join my program where I'll teach you how to do this. So let's see. Oh, I'll tell you about my intuition. It's a relationship I'm building. I I know now looking back, I've always had very strong intuition. I've not always listened to it. And every time I don't listen to it, I make big mistakes that I learn from. For example, I hired a coach and I don't like working with men, not at all. If a man tells me what to do, I respond like nobody's business. I like shut that down. So my intuition was like, girl, don't pay this man. And it was $25,000. But he told me, and he was very, very like a celebrity in coaching at the time. He's since been canceled for very good reasons, for terrible decisions. And I'll tell you one of them without telling you his name. But I signed an agreement. He would coach me weekly for a year. And he showed up to one coaching call and then told me I got my $25,000 worth, and he would not give me a refund. Um, I could look back and say I didn't trust my intuition. I can't trust my intuition because of that. When I look back at it, my intuition was throwing red flags all over the place. I wasn't listening to it. My intuition was like, do not give this man money. He is not trustworthy. So when I look at that $25,000 mistake, how I've been able to come to terms with it is it cost me that much to learn to listen to my tuition. And now I'm very good at investing my money. And I'm really in a very good relationship with my intuition. My intuition sounds like a really soft voice. Yours will too. So if your brain is screaming at you, we have to salvage this trip, all this money, all this time, you won't hear the intuition. Not at all. To be very connected to your body, which is a practice you'll learn in my program. So my intuition, it comes to me in the morning before I fully wake up, sometimes in the shower, sometimes on a walk. It's very soft and it comes to me. And sometimes it's in words and sentences. And sometimes it's just an inner knowing and a sense of things. My intuition also has a sense of humor because we're in Mexico and I had guacamole for dinner. I don't know, maybe this wasn't my intuition, but I woke up and it was a very clear sentence. Girl, guacamole is not dinner. Right? I was starving. So, but I love it. My intuition has a sense of humor. Okay, step 4, and I'll summarize this. Anchor into your result and move towards it. So, where she was like, I don't know what to do, Christina. I said, no, 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 no. You definitely know. What is your goal here? And you can change your goal at any time, but in this moment today, what is your goal here? And use that as a filter to direct you forward. If you're thinking, which step should I do? Should I do this or that? Which gets you closer to your goal faster? Do that. Which feels like relief? Do that. If it gets you away from your result, it's not the right step for you. Last step is to as you anchor into your result, here's what will help you. And I hired a manifestation coach. So you're going to hear more of this infused in the podcast. It's so brilliant. You ready? So as you anchor into your result, you move towards it. You want to be very crystal clear. So this is where you want to maybe do a vision board. How I do that is I go on Canva and I just collect all these images and these words that feel like where I want to be. I have a crystal clear view of what this around the world trip will be. I have the Germany flag here. I have these experiences here. I have these words here. I make it a living visual of what I want. And I infuse this visual, this very specific vision with the feelings I'll have when I'm on my way. Of pride, of accomplishment, of rest, of freedom, of liberation, of love, of deep connection, of creativity. I infuse this visual with the emotion I want to create. And I just keep very anchored into it. And this is how you can use your brain to manifest, salvage this trip. For more on this, join the program. I'll talk about it more there, but I have to say, I didn't want to make this a 5-step framework because it really is the framework for every single, this is the essential step for all of this is you have to be with a coach in community. It's just too easy to spin out on all of this. So let me summarize. How you salvage a trip is step 1. This is hard. Let yourself say it. This is hard and it's temporary, and I'm going to make it easier. Step 2, what is the one next tiny step you can do? Step 3, what feels most like relief? Move in that direction. Step 4, anchor in your result, move toward it. Infuse your actions with the emotion you want to have when you're there. Have a very crystal clear visual of what you're going towards to show your brain what you want. For more, you have to get on our email list. It will let you it'll have the podcast delivered directly to your inbox. You can even get the link to see our podcast on YouTube, and you'll be the first to hear of any freebies, trainings when we open our door. You'll be the first to hear of all of it. So go right now to yourpathandfocus.com/email. Join the email list today. That's yourpathandfocus.com/email. See you there.